had never even heard the phrase gaming addiction. I don't know, just 5 years ago. Even though I was heavily into gaming, and I was in recovery. I was in AA and had been in recovery from alcoholism for many years at that point. And not only that, I had a roommate who was playing EverQuest like every day for hours. And I remember reading an article about EverQuest being called EverCrack, and I don't know. It seems like I should have heard about it earlier than I did, but I didn't. 5 years ago, I hit kind of a bottom in my life. I was not doing well at all. Um, I had been some years earlier, I had been doing really well in my recovery in AA from alcoholism. Um, I hadn't drank. I was discovering all new kinds of things that I wanted to do with my life. I had goals that I was shooting for. Things were going really well with my work and my living situation. And I don't know, I just felt like a lot of things were improving. My life was really filling up. And I think this actually might have been part of the problem. My life was filling up with so much good stuff that the number of meetings I was going to went from 5 a week to 4 a week to 3 a week to 2 a week to 1 a week. And it wasn't that I was tempted to drink again, because I wasn't, but because I have the mental condition that I call addiction, for lack of a better word. It would be really nice if there was a better phrase or a word for that. But yeah, I wasn't treating my condition, and so even though I didn't very often have cravings to drink at all, and I didn't want to, I'd recovered enough in AA to fully accept that for me, one drink brings certain disaster in all areas of my life. So, that just wasn't an option in my mind. But I wasn't treating my condition, so I was feeling out of sorts, feeling irritable, looking for ways to numb out, to escape, to get away from life stresses. And, I found gaming at one point and really threw myself into one particular game that it didn't wreck my life at first at all. I mean, it's kind of filled up some hours that I didn't know what else to do with myself. And I got more and more interested in it, and started like reading up on strategy for it, and then it started to fill up more and more of my time, and then I ended up staying up later and later to play it, till midnight at first, and then it would be 1 o'clock sometimes, and then it would be 2 o'clock sometimes. And once in a while, I'll be up to 3 in the morning playing this game before finally going to bed, even though oftentimes I did need to be up, at 7 or 8 in the morning. And then it started, once it filled up all that time, it started crowding out other things. I had been doing things for exercise, working out a little bit, going on hikes, going on bike rides sometimes, getting exercise in some different ways, and those things were all getting crowded out. I had gotten into meditation for a while in recovery in AA, and that was out the window. And then I wasn't even bothering to make phone calls to my family anymore. The amount of time I was spending on hygiene was going down. I mean, it was just crowding out things left and right, things that were really important to me. I was in a relationship. Eventually, I was trying to minimize the amount of time I spent in it. I mean, I didn't want the relationship to end, but I really was trying to minimize the amount of time I was putting into it. And meanwhile, all of this is having very negative effects on me and other people. With work, not being as responsible with work as I usually am, missing certain things, right? Missing deadlines, missing scheduled times that I was supposed to do things. I was also gaming during work hours sometimes, which is not something I really wanted to do. It's not something I wanted to do at all. I mean, I started doing it because sometimes I was stressed out by some project that I was just starting, or that I got bogged down in. And I mean, I was a computer programmer. That was part-time. That's what I did. About half my week for work. The other half I did other things. Yeah, I wanted to work during those hours. I wanted to do the computer programming because I get paid by the hour. And so by if instead of doing 4 hours of work one day, I do 4 hours of gaming, that means I earn zero money for that day. Um, but sometimes I'd be stressed by a new project, and so I think, oh, it'd feel really good to just like blow off some of that stress by playing a game for half an hour, and then I'll be in a good shape to like dig down, get into this project, and and do it. And that's just insane that I had this thought so many times because never once did it work. Every time I played for half an hour, right? And at the end of that half hour, I'm facing the choice of continuing to play a game that I'm having fun at or stop and doing something I'm feeling really stressed out about. I went with the gaming like every time. So it became 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. Maybe I'd put in an hour of work at the end of that, or maybe I wouldn't even end up working at all. Uh, and that felt terrible. I mean, cutting into the money I was making, not following through on the promises I'd made to my boss. Yeah, it just didn't feel good at all. I mean, a lot of things didn't feel good. Playing till 3 in the morning and then getting up at 7 or 8. After only 4 or 5 hours sleep. That's terrible. I mean, I've done some research since I got in recovery for gaming addiction about sleep deprivation, and yeah, its effects on not just the mind but also the body are pretty bad. I mean, it can have some pretty nasty effects. And I was feeling it. I had low energy. I couldn't seem to remember things. My mood was terrible. I didn't feel like being around people. It was hard, like trying to start a conversation or have a conversation with someone when it felt really hard just to put two coherent sentences together back to back. Um, so that led to a lot of isolation, which made me feel like a loser. It was a shitty place I didn't want to go back to. Feeling like a loser when I was a teenager was part of the reason that I really got into drinking. That made me just block all that out and forget about that. And then in recovery, I made some really good progress. I felt really good about myself in AA, in recovery, and it did. So later on, it felt pretty terrible. Felt like I was tearing down the progress that I had made by obsessively, compulsively gaming so much and hiding out from other people and letting it affect so much of my life. But still, despite these realizations that I had, I didn't know that this was an addiction. I just never heard of gaming addiction. And I had been obsessed with some other things over the years. It was TV for a while. I don't know. I just was in a habit of like getting home from work and watching way too much TV day after day. And then I got burnt out on that. I stopped doing that after 2 or 3 months and never had an urge to go back to it. Never have. So I don't know what that was, but it definitely wasn't an addiction. And there were other things like that I went into obsessively for a while and then got burnt out on and stopped doing it. So I just assumed it would be like that with gaming too. That I was playing too much, that I was obsessing, that I knew it was unhealthy, but I'd get burnt out on it and it would just be this passing phase. But yeah, that phase just never passed year after year until I got to a point where I was doing my best to get it under control. I quit playing the game that I had played the most, that I thought was the problem game, and switched to other things that I thought were other games that I thought were less addictive. And then bit by bit ended up ramping up my time on those too until I was staying up till 2 in the morning playing those games too that I didn't even think were addicted. And all this time I had a sponsor in AA, but I wasn't even really talking to him. And the few times I did talk to him, I didn't tell him about how much I was gaming. But I hit a bottom where it was hurting, and then I fessed up to him about what was going on. I was feeling really down. My relationship was a mess. Physically, I was feeling like crap, from not getting the exercise I usually get, from sleep deprivation and from isolating from people. Oh, and eating really badly too. Just like going for quick, easy foods, so that cooking wouldn't cut into my game time. Just all around feeling really bad. So I told him about it, and he suggested that I start working the steps. So I worked the first step on my gaming, And I was really surprised using the step working guide from Narcotics Anonymous how perfectly it had like 70 questions in there, and how perfectly they all fit not just my past life with booze, but my current life with gaming. And I answered them all, and it really opened my eyes. And I actually stopped for a while. I think mainly just the motivation from honestly and thoroughly working a first step with my sponsor. I went 2 months without gaming, and that's when I found other people who were trying to stop gaming online in a forum, and that really helped me out too. Going to the forum, reading other people's stories, and sharing my own story. That helped me out. It helped me stay off for a couple months, but I still wasn't taking it seriously. So what happened was what typically happens when you don't take addiction. When someone with an addiction doesn't take it seriously, they end up right back in it. Or even when I did take it seriously, I mean, I have ended up back in it from not treating it, from not doing the things that helped me go a day at a time without gaming. Yeah, so I relapsed back into it, and it was quickly as bad as it had ever been after a couple months, so I stopped again. And this time I was more serious about it, and there was a bigger group of people that I'd met online, and we'd started having meetings, 7 a week, one every day, and so I went to a lot of those, and that really helped. I got really active. I tried to help some other people with sponsoring. I was doing a lot better myself. I was doing better, like it was like the same thing over again that had happened years earlier in AA, where I was doing a lot better. My life started to fill up with good things again. And so I don't know. I let something that upset me in the forums drive me away from them, and so I wasn't in contact with anyone in recovery from gaming addiction for a couple months, and I didn't game for those couple months, but I was also forgetting why it was that I wasn't gaming. I was forgetting about what I need to do to take care of myself and take care of my condition. And before I knew it, it made sense to play a game again. I mean, what happened was I was playing this card game face to face with some friends every week, and that was great. I had fun. It wasn't triggering at all. It didn't make me want to play online games. But there was this one day where the game fell through. My friends didn't show up. I had nothing else to do for that couple of hours. I was feeling lonely and remembered that this game existed online, and it just seemed to me, what's the difference, What's the difference if I play with a few friends or if I play with a few strangers online? I've been able to play, and it hasn't been triggering, so I'll just play for a couple of hours online. And what's the difference?